The night before the tragedy, John Lennon told Yoko Ono he had a strange feeling, not fear, not panic, just a quiet sense that something was about to change. He asked her to record something for him. She did. And that tape became the most painful secret she ever held. That night, what John asked Yoko to preserve would haunt her long after the world lost him. John Lennon and Yoko Ono were never a simple love story. To the world, they were controversial, polarizing, misunderstood. But privately, they were inseparable. John once said he felt incomplete without Yoko, that she didn't just love him, she understood him. By 1980, John was finally at peace. He had stepped away from music. He was a father again. He had returned, not to fame, but to himself. And yet, peace doesn't always mean safety. In the weeks leading up to that tragic day, December 8, 1980, John was radiant. He was recording again. Double Fantasy wasn't just an album, it was a rebirth. Friends later recalled something unusual about him during those final days. It wasn't fear they saw. It was like looking at someone who was feeling something deep down but couldn't explain it. John spoke about legacy, about memory, about what lasts after we're gone. One evening, alone with Yoko, he said something that caught her off guard. "If something ever happens," he told her, "promise me you'll remember me as I really was." And then he asked her to record something. It wasn't meant for the public. It wasn't a song. It wasn't even polished. John simply spoke words. He talked about love, about mistakes, about being afraid of being misunderstood forever. He joked. He paused. He went quiet. Yoko recorded him the way she always did, without interruption, without judgment. She didn't know why he needed it. She only knew it mattered. When the recording ended, John smiled and said something simple. "Keep it safe." Less than 24 hours later, the world would change. On December 8, 1980, John Lennon was shot outside the Dakota. The news didn't just shock the world, it shattered it. For Yoko, time collapsed. Grief arrived before comprehension. She returned home alone. Among John's belongings was the tape. She couldn't listen to it. Not that night, not that week, not for years. Because the tape wasn't just a memory, it was John's voice, untouched by death. Yoko Ono was often portrayed as cold, detached, unemotional. The truth was the opposite. She understood something the world didn't, that once a voice is heard again, the loss becomes real all over. She said later that listening felt like reopening a wound that never closed. The tape wasn't sad. That was the problem. It sounded like life continuing without her. So she protected it, not from the world, but from herself, until one day she realized hiding it was changing her. Years later, alone, Yoko finally listened, not all at once. In pieces, she later described the experience as unbearable and necessary. John wasn't saying goodbye, he was being human. He laughed, he hesitated. He admitted fear, and in doing so, he gave Yoko something she hadn't realized she needed: permission to live. She said the tape reminded her that John didn't belong to tragedy. He belonged to love. And that realization changed how she carried him forward. Yoko never released the tape in full. Not because she was hiding something, but because some truths aren't meant to be consumed. They're meant to be honored. The tape wasn't a prophecy. It wasn't a warning. It was a moment of presence, captured just before absence. And in that recording, John Lennon lived on, not as a legend, but as a man who loved deeply and feared being forgotten. Sometimes, the most painful secrets aren't the ones we hide from the world, but the ones that break our hearts every time we remember.